book has been featured in the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, others. It's been named a best book in 2024 by NPR and won the 2024 Mississippi Institute of Arts and Letters Prize, which is in this state that y'all well know is a pretty big deal. Kate's work focuses on storytelling, environmental portraiture, often exploring issues of social justice and shifting politics in the region. She's a regular contributor to the New York Times, Washington Post, all of them. They need photos, they call Kate. That's pretty much how this works, right? I can guarantee it. A resident of North Carolina, now Kate's roots are in Mississippi, where she has investigated civil rights era cold cases, covered the devastating impacts of Hurricane Katrina, and explored the cultural relevance of hot tamales and Koolicles in the Delta, along with other stuff as well. Kate is also, maybe more importantly, a Southern Studies MA graduate, which we're very proud to claim her as such. Yay for that. I was meeting my class the other day, and I literally, we were looking through photos, and I brought them out to the gallery. I said, the main thing that y'all need to know is the person that made these photos was sitting right where you are. It's not that long ago, sitting in your chair right now, and your eyes just kind of opened up. Because this stuff seems so mythical, it seems unapproachable until you actually begin doing the work, right? It probably did for you as you got started as well. But that kind of blew their minds, which was my purpose, but also to make them understand you can do this as well. Most importantly, though, Kate is our good friend. I'm so happy to see her and introduce her, and I hope you will help me to also welcome Kate Medley.
Thank you, kind sir. Okay. Thank you, Andy Harper. It is such an honor to be back here in Barnard at the Center for Southern Studies, where I was a student 20 years ago. It's hard to believe that much time has passed. Andy Harper at the time was not yet teaching. Thankfully, that has been rectified. And yet, Andy was a great teacher. I've been thinking a lot this past week, as have I'm sure many of you, on the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. If memory serves, when I started here as a grad student, Hurricane Katrina came ashore 2 or 3 days later. And it was really a pivotal moment for me as someone who had, before coming here, trained as a journalist, to have returned to my home state and have happened what was clear at the time would be one of the biggest news stories of my life happened to my people. My dad is originally from Gulfport, and we had family there. Many classes at the University of Mississippi went on as planned. The syllabi were unchanged. And then there were instructors like Andy and others at the Center for Southern Studies who said, you want to go down and document what's happening in New Orleans, in Gulfport, in Waveland? Here's an audio recorder. You don't know how to use it? Sit down. Let's figure it out together. You want to take a video camera? Let's go. And equipped me with these tools that, I knew a little bit about storytelling, but I didn't have the tools to do the work. And so in a way that was very unplanned and nimble, Andy helped me do that, and I will always be thankful. So thank you for that. One other quick story. God, it's so much to be back here in this building and on this campus and this space and with you all. When I was 18, I left the South, and I spent about 5 years out west working and eventually finishing college out there. And I think at the time I thought of myself as someone who had left the South, who had gotten out of the South, if you will. And I was passing through Mississippi in the summer of 2005, and I had heard about this Center for Southern Studies, and I found myself in North Mississippi that summer, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just walk through, see what it's all about. And I was walking through the Grove, and I felt like I was somewhat anonymous being here, happily anonymous. And I approached the steps to Barnard, and I opened that big door, as you all did tonight, And before I could see anything, I heard, "Is that Kate Medley?" And it was a little disconcerting, honestly. And then I heard this voice. It was like out of The Wizard of Oz, where you can't see who's talking. And I heard, "My name is Mary Hartwell, and I just got off the phone with so-and-so in the Mississippi Delta, who just got off the phone with so-and-so on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, who just talked to your mother, who said that you might stop by." And I did not know what to do with that. But any way you look at it, I was back. I was back in the South. I was back home. And thank goodness for that. And I now know that I was then here to stay. So thank you, Mary Hartwell, for that kind welcome. This place, the Center for Southern Studies, over the course of my master's work, helped me understand how one could be of this region and to do work within this region, work that is all at once critical and complex and loving. And that is an ideal that I still aim for every day in the work that I do and in the work that I will tell you about tonight. So thank you to the center. Thank you especially to Afton, all the way in the back, and to Katie McKee, somewhere in this room, who does pioneering work, great work to run this center, to direct this center, to continue this tradition here at the University of Mississippi. Thank you both for having me. I also want to quickly appreciate the Max Museum in Meridian. This exhibit that you walked through this afternoon debuted at the Max before traveling here to Oxford. The Max, if you haven't been, is one of the most tremendous museums in the South. It has great depth in the way that it approaches storytelling about the artists, the musicians, the writers of this region. Get thee to Meridian if you have not yet. So thank you to the Max. Okay, I will give a short introduction to this body of work. I'll talk for about 15 minutes and then happily answer any questions. And then we can just look at the work. Okay, let's see. So for about 20 years now, I've worked as a photojournalist. As Andy mentioned, I mostly cover national news that's happening around the South. I got my start in journalism working in newsrooms in the South. And now I work independently for the New York Times, the Washington Post, NPR, the Wall Street Journal. A lot of this work is work that is about hardship and inequity, and hard issues that we're having in this region, disaster, injustice, and while it can be heavy stuff to cover, it's work that I really enjoy. I really enjoy exploring my community and nearby communities by way of this work. Along the way, in my journey as a photojournalist, I started stopping at gas stations. This is a photograph of me in Leland, Mississippi, by an incredible photojournalist based in the Mississippi Delta named Rory Doyle. And I would often be out in a small town reporting on a story, and like we all do, I'd be looking for something to eat. And I would, given the option between the local Burger King or the gas station grill, I found, especially over time, that taking a chance on that gas station, taking the time to pull over, to get out of the car, to walk inside, to open that little glass door, to hear that bell jingle, and to see how I'm received, to see what's on offer that day, to see what people are talking about over coffee, what's on the community bulletin board. All of that taught me a little bit about where I was in the world. It gave me some insight into, what is important to the people who live there. And honestly, as I've reflected on this more recently, I think there were many occasions where, I would wrap up covering some sort of hardship or disaster and in a place that I didn't know, and I would be sort of uplifted by stopping at the gas station and seeing what sense of community was happening around there.
You have a rough day, hon?
No, it's been
Been slow or what?
y'all.
Has it? Hey, throw some jalapenos on there for me.
All right. Please and thank you.
Please, darling. Thank you.
Wait, I owe you some pennies.
I bet you do. Need some dollars.
You need all the cents you got.
Girl, need some dollars. No sense. Gotta enjoy the house today.
Hey, listen, okay.
I'm
If we
taking care of
finna,
business
if we
right
finna go
now.
clean between the two houses, I'm finna go, I gotta fix the weeds, and we finna go clean all that up. Alright? I'm finna clean all that up first. So I ain't gotta talk about it no more. We finna get that right. Let's clean it up. Okay. So, hey, I'm finna fix the door. Hey, I'll meet you now. I'm on my way. So, hey, I'm gonna get you 2 boxes of cake flour. Hammer that. I love you.
Remember that? That was a black eye.
Yeah.
You're too old to fight. Fell out of the damn chair, going to bed, my office chair rolled out. I was drunk. And went downhill from there. Believe that.
Yeah, you don't want to go back there.
Why? I want to show you how to do this.
Go ahead. After that, he in here and walk.
Okay, I'll let him know. You're welcome. Bye-bye. Hot dog special? You got your boo? 6 hot dogs for a guy.
Listen, okay,
We're
listen,
gonna change
okay.
it out today, though. She just wanted to change it out.
They do right there?
Yeah.
You know how much they do cost? Huh?
How much?
$1,100.
Okay.
Okay.
Damn, yeah.
Okay.
I work.
Come
That's
on.
my grandson. That's my youngest
Hey, hey,
grandson.
listen.
I stay right down the street. Yeah, I stay on Giant Field.
I stay 2 streets down from Rick. I stay 2 streets down from Rick.
Oh, man.
What's happening, dude? Oh, you're hanging in there. Well, my help called in day before we was going to work, had it all planned out yesterday, what we're going to do yesterday. He says, man, I got up at 8 o'clock, took a shower, and hell, I just laid back down. I didn't wake up till 3:30, and I went, come on, man. That was the topper. Oversleep till 3:30 in the afternoon.
Okay, I'm going to read just a short excerpt from the introduction to this book. And then I'll tell you what you're looking at. Okay, 10 miles or so past the last stoplight in Hillsborough, North Carolina, a panoply of hand-painted signs dotted the roadside for the farm and garden. Vegetables, jelly, live plants, local lamb, beer, bait. So I pulled off to gas up and was greeted by a shop dog named Parker alongside the promised vegetables, bait, and beer. Inside, an older black woman donned a plastic hair cover in case of rain. A young Latinx couple purchased last-minute party provisions. 2 white farmers seemingly shopped only for conversation. Peach hand pies, Bojangles biscuits pirated from an in-town location, and organic beef came home with me that day in 2008. 4 years later, I began documenting gas stations across the South, interviewing and photographing the people who run the shops, cook the food, and buy the goods. There is an egalitarian nature to the gas station, integral to the lives of people in every socioeconomic bracket if you live in the South, especially in rural areas. Working as a photojournalist, it became my way of studying this complex region, the people who live here, and how the populations and priorities are shifting. New Yorkers have bodega culture. In the South, we have gas stations. So in 2013, I cashed in all my vacation time in the name of gas station research, and I drove home to Mississippi, and I posted a query on social media. Is Sam Morrison still in this room? he may have left, that just said, what's the best gas station food in the Mississippi Delta? And I was flooded with responses, including one from Sam. And so this is I pulled over on the side of the highway and just on the dash of my rental car, tried to map out my journey, my adventure, with everyone's recommendations along the way. And these recommendations, they were not just like, go to Clarksdale and eat fried chicken. They were like, go to the Double Quick in Clarksdale, but you got to go to the one on Fulton Street, not the one on Churton Street. And you got to get there before 10 a.m. because that's when Miss Debbie's cooking and she's the best fry cook in the South. And then someone would respond and be like, that guy's full of shit. And then they would do the same thing. And so, that was, to me, the first indication that, maybe this is something that people are interested in. And so I found as the years went by, I talk about how I worked on this project for 10 years. And, I worked on this project here and there over the course of 10 years as I was in between doing my real work. And occasionally I would give a presentation about what is it like to be a photojournalist in the South. And I would be, I would create this PowerPoint about all the hard-hitting news that I covered. And I would put in just a little bit about, this gas station thing. And then the Q&A would roll around and everybody would say, well, what about that fried chicken? Can we go back to the gas station that you talked about in Louisiana? Turns out fried chicken unites us all. And so it was that, I think, interest that kept me working on it in and out over the course of 10 years. Shiraz was asking me in his class earlier today how many gas stations I documented, and I'm gonna ballpark 150 that I actually documented. But of course, as we all do every day, we stop in these places, and some of them are just a regular Texaco that is serving this function as you move through the world. But then some of them are pretty darn interesting. And my first class here in Southern Studies was with Charles Reagan Wilson, and he posed this question in our first seminar, which was upstairs in the, what do we call the rotunda upstairs at the time, and he posed the question of, well, what is the South? And we argued about it for a while, especially Florida. And then we talked about it all semester. What is the South? What comprises this region and what's important to, how do we distinguish, geographically where, but also the dialect of where and the food of where. And turns out you can spend 2 years working on a master's all about that. So, people ask me, well, how do you find these places that you decide to document? And as anybody who travels the South knows, especially if you're traveling the highways, they're everywhere. They're all around us. They surround us wherever we go. And I was thinking about Katie and Afton were telling me that the theme of this semester of SouthTalks is reading the South. As a visual journalist, I'm both reading literature about the places and studying the places that I'm going to, researching the places that I'm going to visit. And then as I'm, driving down the highway, I'm looking at the architecture of these places. Are these buildings designed by a firm in Ohio, or, were they built by someone locally, one room at a time as they needed to expand? And if it's the latter, that tells me something about how the business is being run. Is there sort of standard fair signage, or did someone, get out there with a paintbrush and paint the sign on the side of the wall? All of these things are clues to me about how this business is run and how the decisions are being made. Are the decisions here being made by a marketing firm in Texas, or is the marketing firm also the cashier and the cook and the who here is making the decisions about what's on the shelves and what's for lunch? And so for me, in this project and my own curiosity, the more local to the community, the better, or the more interesting, the more illuminating. I hadn't really planned to talk about Fred Eaton, but when I see his face, I can't help but. This is Mr. Fred Eaton. He runs Fred Eaton Service Station in Pritchard, Alabama, which is a primarily African-American community right outside of Mobile. And he, along with his 6 brothers, opened this service station in the early 60s. And by my best research, it remains it remains one of the only full-service gas stations in Alabama. It's a cash-only situation. And it's one of very few Black-owned gas stations in the South right now. Mr. Eaton is very much more than the owner of the gas station. When I drove by that day at another community member's recommendation, there were about 6 people sitting out front. And let's see let me pull up his quote. He said, when people retire, they come sit around out front. Take the preacher, for instance. He's retired. He'll sit around and we'll talk church stuff. It's not real church, but it is a lot like real church right here at my own service station. And in addition to selling gas and doing oil changes and rotating your tires, they're also holding voting drives in the parking lot of Fred Eaton Service Station, and holding car washes to raise money for the high school. And he's the community hub in Pritchard. And I'll just close by saying, Shiraz really put me on the spot earlier and asked me why I did this. And I think it's important to talk about how in a day and age where we tend to self-segregate by our interests and our politics and our religion and how much money we make and who we voted for president. The gas station is one of these spaces, one of very few spaces, that everybody in this room passes through on an almost daily basis. And we hold the door for each other, and we pass the ketchup. And so to me, as someone who has really built my career trying to tell stories with depth about the South, this space has served as a meaningful construct or lens from which to study the whole South by way of these gas stations. So hopefully some of that comes through in the images. I'm happy to take any questions.